We got him, ladies and gentlemen. Adin Ross just waved the white flag in the most embarrassing fashion possible. After weeks of attacking Doechii, after all that tough talk, after swearing nobody could touch him, he folded. And the internet is absolutely losing it right now. Everybody thought they knew where this was headed. Adin Ross versus Doechii. Except it wasn't really versus, it was just Adin attacking her for weeks, talking reckless, acting untouchable, claiming he's too big to be pressed. That was the story everyone was running with. Big streamer picks on successful black woman, gets away with it because that's how the internet works. But then, Glasses Malone stepped in, applied pressure, real pressure, and now everything's different. The whole narrative just flipped because Adin Ross, the same dude who said nobody could stop him, just publicly admitted defeat. Let me break down exactly how we got here. Let's rewind to where this all started because context matters here. Adin Ross randomly decided to go after Doechii out of nowhere, and his reasons? It kept changing. First, he tried to say it was because she was mean to him once at the Met Gala. Then he pivoted to calling her an industry plant. But let's keep it real. Everybody could see through that immediately. This wasn't about the Met Gala. This wasn't about her being an industry plant. This was about her being a successful black woman, period. And if you've been paying attention to Adin's patterns, you know exactly what this was really about. The Drake and Kendrick situation. Adin Ross is a die-hard Drake fan, obsessed, and in his mind, Doechii represents an extension of that battle. He saw an opportunity to get some kind of moral victory for Drake by attacking someone he perceived as being on the other side. That's the real motive here. And it gets even messier when you realize this dude has a history. Him and his circle, they've never had problems going after women, especially black women. That's just facts. So when Adin started this campaign against Doechii, folks online immediately clocked what was happening. This wasn't criticism, this wasn't commentary, this was targeted harassment with racial undertones, and people who were not having it. That's when Glasses Malone entered the chat. Now, if you don't know who Glasses Malone is, let me put you on. He's a West Coast rapper, respected in the streets, known for keeping it real. And when he saw what Adin was doing to Doechii, he decided to apply pressure. Full court press. He called Adin out directly, told him to put some respect on Doechii's name or deal with the consequences. And at first, Adin acted tough. He brushed it off, laughed about it on stream, said things like, "I'm Adin Ross, you can't touch me, I'm too big for this." That fake confidence lasted about 48 hours because Glasses Malone didn't back down. He kept pressing, kept calling Adin out publicly. And that's when Adin revealed his true colors. Instead of addressing the actual issue, instead of admitting he was wrong for attacking Doechii, Adin went full racist. He started saying Glasses Malone was a deadbeat dad, said he had multiple baby mamas and didn't take care of his kids. Classic racist stereotypes. Except there was one massive problem with that narrative. Glasses Malone doesn't even have kids. Let that sink in. Adin Ross literally made up an entire storyline based purely on racist assumptions about a black man. He saw a black man challenging him and immediately went to the most stereotypical, ignorant racist talking points he could think of. No research, no facts, just pure prejudice. And the internet caught that immediately. People started clipping those moments, posting receipts, pointing out that Adin just exposed himself as exactly what everyone suspected he was, a racist. Not allegedly, not supposedly, straight up. And that's when the pressure really started building, because now it wasn't just about Doechii anymore. Now it was about Adin's pattern of racism, his pattern of attacking black people, his pattern of thinking he's untouchable because he has a large platform. The clip started going viral. Commentary channels started covering it. Twitter was on fire. And Adin? He started scrambling. You could see it in his energy. The cocky attitude started fading. He went from "nobody can touch me" to visibly uncomfortable on stream. Glasses Malone kept the pressure on. Other voices in the community started joining in, and Adin realized he was in a situation he couldn't stream his way out of. So what did he do? He tried the classic streamer move, deflection. He started talking about donating money, trying to flip the narrative like, look, I'm not a bad guy, I'm gonna donate to charity. But people weren't buying it, because donating money doesn't erase the racism, doesn't erase the attacks on Doechii, doesn't erase the lies about Glasses Malone. It's just damage control, and the internet knows damage control when they see it. Now, let's get into the motive, because this is where everything starts clicking into place. Adin Ross didn't wake up one day and randomly decide to go after Doechii for no reason. There's psychology behind this. There's insecurity, there's envy, and there's a desperate need for relevance. Let's talk about where Adin is right now in his career. On the surface, yeah, he's a big streamer, millions of followers, gets decent views. But if you've been watching closely, you can see the cracks forming. His content has become repetitive. The controversies that used to boost his numbers are starting to backfire. Brands are distancing themselves, and most importantly, he's not growing anymore. He's plateaued. Compare that to someone like Doechii, rising star, critical acclaim, respect from the industry, momentum building. She represents everything Adin wishes he had right now. Artistic credibility, respect, upward trajectory, and that creates jealousy. Especially for someone like Adin, who's built his entire platform on shock value and controversy instead of actual talent or skill. Think about it. Adin's whole brand is based on being loud, being controversial, being offensive. But that only takes you so far. Eventually, people get tired of it. The shock value wears off, and you're left with nothing substantial underneath. That's where Adin is right now. He's watching people like Doechii build real careers with real artistry while he is stuck doing the same tired antics on stream, and it's eating at him. Then factor in the Drake connection. Adin has tied his identity so deeply to Drake that when Kendrick bodied him in that battle, Adin took it personally, like he lost too. And in his mind, anyone associated with Kendrick or anyone who didn't publicly side with Drake became an enemy. Doechii fell into that category. So this attack on her was his way of fighting a battle he already lost. It's proxy warfare, it's desperation, and it's honestly pathetic when you break it down. But let's go even deeper. Adin has a documented history of racist behavior. This isn't the first time. He's been caught saying slurs, he's been caught platforming white supremacists, he's been caught making racist jokes and then hiding behind the "it's just comedy" defense. So when he went after Doechii and then went after Glasses Malone with racist stereotypes, it wasn't an isolated incident. It was a pattern that people have been calling out for years. But here's the thing about people like Adin. They think their platform protects them. They think having millions of followers means they're untouchable. They think they can say and do whatever they want without consequences. And for a while, that was true. Adin got away with a lot. Platforms let him slide. Fans defended him, and he kept pushing boundaries. But there's always a breaking point, and Glasses Malone represented that breaking point. Because Glasses isn't some random person on Twitter. He's not someone Adin can just block and ignore. He's a real person with real connections who was willing to apply real pressure, and Adin wasn't ready for that. He's used to online beef, used to Twitter arguments, used to people talking tough but never actually doing anything. But Glasses was different. He meant it, and Adin felt that immediately. You could see it in his body language on stream. The nervous laughs, the deflections, the attempts to change the subject. He knew he messed up. He knew he picked a fight with the wrong person, and he knew there was no easy way out. So he started trying different strategies. First, he tried to act tough. That failed. Then he tried to play victim. That failed. Then he tried the racism. That made it worse. Then he tried the charity angle. Nobody believed it, and finally he arrived at the only option left, raising the white flag, admitting defeat without actually using those words, trying to save face while simultaneously backing down. It's the classic move of someone who got in way over their head and realized too late. But here's the part that really hits different when you step back and look at the human side of this. Doechii didn't ask for any of this. She was literally just existing, living her life, making music, building her career, and Adin Ross decided to make her a target. For weeks, she had to deal with thousands of his fans flooding her comments with hate, racist attacks, misogynistic nonsense, death threats, all because some insecure streamer wanted to use her for content. Think about that for a second. She's trying to work, trying to create, trying to do what she loves, and she's got this random dude and his army of followers harassing her daily. That's exhausting, that's draining, that's traumatic, and it's not fair. This is somebody's daughter, somebody's friend, a real human being with feelings and mental health and a life outside of the internet. And she became collateral damage in Adin's desperate attempt to stay relevant. The same goes for Glasses Malone. Adin straight up lied on that man's name, called him a deadbeat father, said he had kids he wasn't taking care of, spread that narrative to millions of people, and it was completely false, completely fabricated, based on nothing but racist assumptions. Do you know how damaging that is? Even after the truth comes out, those lies stick. People remember the accusation more than the correction. Glasses Malone now has to live with thousands of people who saw Adin's clips and believed them, who think he's a deadbeat even though he doesn't have children. That's character assassination. That's defamation. And it's all because Adin couldn't handle being checked for his behavior. The emotional toll this kind of online harassment takes is real. We've seen people driven to depression, anxiety, some have even taken their own lives because of relentless online attacks. And while this situation didn't reach that level, it could have, because Adin didn't know where to draw the line. He didn't care about the consequences of his actions. He only cared about content, about views, about staying in the algorithm. And that's sickening when you really think about it. These are real people with real lives being treated like NPCs in Adin's video game. Now let's get into the actual footage of Adin waving the white flag, because this is where it gets truly beautiful. After all that tough talk, after all those claims that nobody could touch him, after weeks of doubling down, we finally got the clip that ended it all. Adin's on stream, clearly uncomfortable, clearly trying to move past the situation without admitting he lost, and he says, and I quote, "We're talking about moving on. Last thing I'll say is just people watch their engagement just drop. You guys will never hear about them ever again. A lot of these Twitter people, you'll never see them or hear about them ever again, I promise." Let's break down what's happening here. First, notice the framing. He's trying to act like he's choosing to move on, like this is his decision, like he's the one in control. But everyone watching knows the truth. He's not moving on by choice, he's retreating. He's backing down because the pressure got too intense. And that opening line, "We're talking about moving on," is giving major defeat energy. That's not what winners sound like. Then he pivots to this idea that everyone who came at him is going to lose relevance. You'll never hear about them ever again. That's pure copium. That's what people say when they lost but can't admit it. They try to convince themselves and their audience that actually the other person lost, even though all the evidence points to the opposite. It's delusional. And the internet saw right through it. People in the comments were immediately calling it out. That's a white flag. He's running. Adin took the L, because it was obvious. But wait, it gets even better. After Adin makes that statement, he tries to reinforce it with, "I promise, I swear to God, watch, I'm done." And that "I swear to God" line? Chef's kiss. Because now he's invoking God to back up his desperate attempt to save face. That's how you know someone's really in their feelings, when they gotta bring religion into it just to convince people they're not hurt. The internet had a field day with that. Memes everywhere, clips getting reposted with commentary, and everyone was saying the same thing. Adin Ross just lost, publicly, undeniably. But the clip doesn't end there. Oh no. Because then Adin tries one more deflection tactic. He randomly brings up Anthony Fantano, completely out of nowhere, says, "But I do have to say, Anthony Fantano, suck my dick." And then he goes on this whole tangent about Fantano using the N-word. Now, let's be clear about what's happening here. This is classic deflection. This is, I just lost, so let me quickly attack someone else to change the subject. Adin's trying to redirect the attention away from his L by starting beef with someone completely unrelated to the Doechii situation. It's transparent, it's desperate, and it didn't work. But here's where it gets hypocritical to the point of comedy. Adin's trying to call out Fantano for saying the N-word when Adin himself has been caught on camera multiple times, not only saying it, but defending his right to say it. There's literally footage of Adin talking about how all streamers say it, how if you claim you don't say it, you're lying. He's on record with this. So for him to suddenly act morally outraged about someone else saying it is beyond parody. It's like watching someone punch their girlfriend and then immediately turning to another dude and going, "Yo, why are you disrespectful to women?" It makes no sense. The logic doesn't logic. And the internet roasted him for it. People in the comments were immediately calling it out. That's a white flag. He's running. Adin took the L because it was obvious. But wait, it gets even better. After Adin makes that statement, he tries to reinforce it with, "I promise, I swear to God, watch, I'm done." And that "I swear to God" line, chef's kiss, because now he's invoking God to back up his desperate attempt to save face. That's how you know someone's really in their feelings, when they gotta bring religion into it just to convince people they're not hurt. The internet had a field day with that. Memes everywhere, clips getting reposted with commentary, and everyone was saying the same thing. Adin Ross just lost, publicly, undeniably. But the clip doesn't end there. Oh no. Because then Adin tries one more deflection tactic. He randomly brings up Anthony Fantano, completely out of nowhere. Says, "But I do have to say, Anthony Fantano suck my dick." And then he goes on this whole tangent about Fantano using the N-word. Now, let's be clear about what's happening here. This is classic deflection. This is, "I just lost, so let me quickly attack someone else to change the subject." Adin's trying to redirect the attention away from his L by starting beef with someone completely unrelated to the Doechii situation. It's transparent, it's desperate, and it didn't work. But here's where it gets hypocritical to the point of comedy. Adin's trying to call out Fantano for saying the N-word when Adin himself has been caught on camera multiple times, not only saying it, but defending his right to say it. There's literally footage of Adin talking about how all streamers say it, how if you claim you don't say it, you're lying. He's on record with this. So for him to suddenly act morally outraged about someone else saying it is beyond parody. It's like watching someone punch their girlfriend and then immediately turning to another dude and going, "Yo, why are you disrespectful to women?" It makes no sense. The logic doesn't logic. And the internet roasted him for it. People pulled up the old clips of Adin defending N-word usage, posted them side by side with his Fantano callout, and the hypocrisy was glaring. This man has no principles, no consistency, no moral foundation. He just says whatever he thinks will work in the moment. And right now, in this moment, he thought attacking Fantano would distract from the fact that he just waved the white flag to Glasses Malone. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. Everyone still knows Adin lost. Everyone still knows he folded. And everyone still knows that for all his talk about being untouchable, he got touched and he couldn't handle it. The footage speaks for itself. The body language, the nervous energy, the deflection tactics, the desperate attempts to reframe the narrative, all of it screams defeat. This is what it looks like when someone who's used to bullying people without consequences finally faces consequences, and they have no idea how to handle it, because they've never had to before. Adin Ross spent years building a platform on being controversial, on saying wild stuff, on attacking people, and it worked for him. Until it didn't, until someone actually pressed him. And now we're watching the collapse in real time. Now, while all this was going down, there was another subplot that people caught on to that I need to mention because it adds another layer to this whole situation. Somebody online discovered a security vulnerability with Adin's house, specifically his garage door. Now, I don't know if this directly contributed to him waving the white flag, but the timing is interesting. Let me explain what happened. There's this dude online who's basically an ethical hacker. He exposes security flaws in tech and smart home systems to show people where they're vulnerable. And he decided to demonstrate something using Adin's garage as an example. Apparently, Adin has one of those smart garage door systems that you can control remotely, but the security on it is weak, like really weak. In the video, this hacker shows how easy it would be for someone to record the signal when Adin opens his garage and then replay that signal to open it themselves. Basically, if you sat near Adin's house and recorded him pressing the button once, you'd have permanent access to his garage. That's a massive security flaw. And when Adin saw this demonstration on stream, you could see the panic in his face. He tried to play it off, tried to act like it wasn't a big deal, but you could tell he was shook, because suddenly, the internet wasn't just a place where people argued with him, it was a place where people could access his physical space. And for someone like Adin, who's made a lot of enemies online, that's terrifying. Now, I'm not saying anything bad should happen to Adin, let's be clear about that. I don't wish violence on anybody. But do I think he needed a wake-up call? Absolutely. Do I think he needed to realize that actions have consequences, and the internet isn't just a playground where you can say whatever you want without anything mattering in real life? 100%. And maybe this security breach demonstration was part of that wake-up call. Maybe it made him realize that when you make enough people mad, when you attack enough people, when you cross enough lines, eventually something might come back to you. Not necessarily violence, but consequences, real ones. And maybe that fear contributed to his decision to wave the white flag, to back off, to stop pushing, because he realized he's not as untouchable as he thought. The internet is full of people smarter than him, more connected than him, more willing to actually do something than him. And that's a scary realization when you've spent years acting invincible. There's also the factor of Adin's overall trajectory right now. Like I mentioned earlier, his career is plateauing. His controversies aren't hitting the same anymore, and the more he leans into problematic behavior, the more he alienates potential opportunities. Sponsorships are drying up, mainstream acceptance is moving further away, and he's increasingly boxed into a corner where his only option is to keep being controversial, which keeps limiting his options, which forces him to be more controversial, and the cycle continues. It's a death spiral. And I think Adin's starting to realize that. He's watching other streamers mature, diversify, build actual sustainable careers. Meanwhile, he's still stuck doing the same shock value content that worked 5 years ago, but doesn't work anymore. And that's frustrating. That's scary when you realize you might have peaked and there's nowhere to go but down. So when Glasses Malone pressed him, it wasn't just about that one beef, it was about everything piling up. The security breach, the plateauing career, the loss of opportunities, the realization that he's doing long-term damage to himself. And all of that combined created the perfect storm that forced him to wave the white flag, to back off, to stop pushing. Because he realized he's not as untouchable as he thought. The internet is full of people smarter than him, more connected than him, more willing to actually do something than him. And that's a scary realization when you've spent years acting invincible.
What we're witnessing here goes beyond just one streamer taking an L. This is a case study in accountability, in consequences. And what happens when someone who's used to operating without boundaries finally hits a wall? And there are bigger lessons here that apply to internet culture as a whole. First, let's talk about the myth of being too big to cancel. For years, people like Adin have operated under the assumption that once you reach a certain level of fame or followers, you're untouchable. You can say whatever you want, do whatever you want, and your platform will protect you. And for a while, that was true. We've seen countless examples of creators doing objectively terrible things and facing zero real consequences. But the tide is shifting. Audiences are getting smarter. They're getting less tolerant of racism, misogyny, and harassment disguised as content. And more importantly, people are realizing that these platforms only have power if we give it to them. If the community decides someone crossed the line and actually holds them accountable, that person can't just stream their way out of it. Glasses Malone proved that. He showed that real pressure, sustained pressure, consistent pressure actually works. Adin couldn't ignore him. Couldn't block him, couldn't laugh him off, and eventually Adin had to fold. That's a blueprint. That's a roadmap for how to actually hold these people accountable. Second, there's the conversation about who gets protected and who doesn't. Doechie's a black woman. She was attacked relentlessly, and initially there wasn't much pushback. It took someone like Glasses Malone stepping in for the tide to turn. That's a problem. Black women shouldn't need a man to defend them before the internet takes their harassment seriously. That's a systemic issue we need to address. The same energy that showed up for Doechii after Glasses got involved should have been there from day one, period. Third, this situation highlights the dangers of parasocial relationships and platform worship. Adin's fans defended him blindly. Didn't matter that he was clearly in the wrong, didn't matter that he was being racist, they rode for him anyway, because they feel personally connected to him. That's dangerous. That's how toxic communities get built. And it's on us as consumers of content to be more critical, to hold people accountable even when we like them, especially when we like them. And finally, there's the bigger question of what kind of internet culture we want to build. Do we want a space where harassment is tolerated as long as it's entertaining, where racism is excused as jokes, where people can attack others without consequences? Or do we want something better, something healthier, where accountability exists, where respect matters, where real people aren't just content fodder. This Adin Ross situation is a test case, and the fact that he folded shows that maybe, just maybe, we're moving toward the latter.
So, where does Adin Ross go from here? That's the million-dollar question. Because waving the white flag doesn't erase everything that happened. The clips are still out there, the receipts are saved, and the internet has a long memory. Some people think this is the beginning of Adin's decline, that he's going to continue spiraling as more brands drop him, more opportunities disappear, and his audience slowly migrates to newer, less problematic creators. And honestly, that's a very real possibility. We've seen it happen before. Creators who rely solely on controversy eventually burn out because controversy has diminishing returns. Others think Adin will try to rebrand, maybe take a break, come back with a reformed image, do the apology tour, talk about growth and learning, and attempt to reposition himself as someone who's changed. That's also possible, though based on his pattern of behavior, I'm skeptical about how genuine that would be. Then there's the possibility that he just doubles down, that after licking his wounds for a bit, he comes back even more aggressive, even more controversial, trying to prove he's not shook, that nobody can control him. That path leads to an even faster burnout, but it's the path a lot of people in his position take because they don't know any other way. What I do know is this: the Doechii situation exposed something in Adin that can't be unexposed. It showed his racism, his misogyny, his cowardice, and most importantly, it showed that he can be pressed, that he's not invincible. And once that perception is shattered, it's hard to rebuild. His fans will stick with him for now, but even they have limits. Even they will eventually get tired of watching someone lose repeatedly. And when that day comes, Adin won't have anywhere to fall back on because he never built anything real, never cultivated actual talent or skill, just controversy, just shock value. And that's not a sustainable foundation. As for Doechii, she won, unequivocally. She didn't have to say a word, didn't have to engage, didn't have to lower herself to Adin's level. She just kept being excellent, kept making great music, kept building her career, and let her community handle the rest. That's power. That's what real strength looks like. And I hope she continues to thrive while Adin fades into irrelevance. Glasses Malone deserves recognition too. He stood up when it mattered, applied pressure when others were silent, and proved that sometimes you just need one person willing to actually do something to change the whole dynamic. Respect to him for that. This whole saga is going to be studied, it's going to be referenced, and it's going to serve as a reminder that actions have consequences, even on the internet, even when you think you're too big to fall. Eventually, gravity catches up to everyone.
All right, y'all, that's where we're at with this whole Adin Ross versus Doechii situation. Well, not versus. Adin attacking Doechii and then getting pressed by Glasses Malone until he waved the white flag. That's more accurate. And listen, this story is still developing. More clips are gonna surface, more commentary is gonna drop, and Adin's probably gonna say something else stupid that reignites the whole thing. So you already know I'm gonna be covering every single twist and turn. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, because when new information drops, you're gonna wanna see the breakdown immediately. Now, I wanna hear from y'all. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Adin genuinely learned something from this, or is he just laying low until the heat dies down? Do you think Glasses Malone handled this perfectly, or should he have approached it differently? And what do you think Adin's next move is gonna be? Rebrand, double down, disappear? Let me know your predictions, because I'm reading every comment. Also, if you made it this far, thank you for rocking with me, genuinely. These videos take time to put together, and your support means everything. Share this with someone who's been following the drama. Send it to your group chat, post it on your story. Let's make sure everybody understands what really went down here. Before I go, I just want to say this. Shout out to Doechii. Shout out to Glasses Malone. Shout out to everyone who stood up and said, nah, we're not tolerating this. Because that's how change happens. That's how we build a better internet. One accountability moment at a time. And to Adin, good luck with whatever comes next. You're gonna need it. All right, y'all, I'm out. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, just because someone has a platform doesn't mean they're untouchable. Sometimes all it takes is one person willing to press them to reveal they were never as strong as they pretended to be. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.